In this video, I'm going to talk about the imperfect verb forms as they're expressed in each of the 7 verb stems. I won't focus very much on the pu'al and the hofal, which are far more uncommon or much less common than the other 5 stems, so I'll spend most of my time on them, on the 5 main ones, but I'll touch on them at the end. The pages in the textbook that I'll be working with are pages 85 through 89. You may want to just open your textbook and follow along with me as I move through. I'm going to try and edit or modify some of the information as the textbook author has presented it here. Hopefully make it a little bit more accessible and memorable for you. So starting on page 85, the textbook lists 3 things that it identifies in each of the 7 stems as it goes through and presents you with a paradigm. And the 3 things are, first, they identify in each place, or they're inviting you to look for in each place, the root, the 3-letter root that forms the basis of every Hebrew verb. Secondly, they're identifying for you, and this is the confusing one that I'm going to modify for you, they're identifying the consonants attached to the beginning of the root and the vowels underneath those consonants. And what they don't say is that those consonants that they're talking about, or the author is talking about, are the prefixes. And there are only 4 letters that you can choose from as a prefix. There's only 4 different prefixes in terms of the first letter. You'll recall that in last chapter, Noah's chapter, I don't remember, 9 I think, the previous chapter, 8 or 9, it talked about the imperfect and the perfect. And perfect forms are created by adding contracted pronouns, which are called affixes, which the textbook doesn't use that language, unfortunately, but that's my language. Affixes attached to a 3-letter root at the end makes it a perfect form, which means it's translated as having past tense in English. And a pronoun that contracts into a prefix and is attached at the beginning of a 3-letter root creates an imperfect form, which has the implication in terms of tense in English as being either ongoing present action or future, something that's about to begin. Affix at the end, action has ended. Prefix at the beginning, action is beginning or has begun. So there are 4 letters that can be prefixes. You can have an aleph prefix, which is the first common singular. You can have a nun prefix, which is first common plural. You can have a yod prefix, which is the most common, which is third person masculine, either singular or plural. And then you can have a tav as a prefix, which is all of the others. So all 4 second-person forms, and then third-person feminine, singular and plural, both have a tav as the prefix. Now they're differentiated based on prefix complements, right? You'll recall several of the prefix forms also have a prefix complement that comes at the end that differentiates both gender and number from the others that have the same prefix. So, in number 2 on page 85, and in number 2 in all the charts from 85 to 88, the textbook author lists a certain consonant, which is yod, tav, aleph, or nun, and those are prefixes. So my suggestion to you is to, in some ways, differentiate those in your mind, and think of the imperfect stem signs as not being so tied to the prefix. Now there will be a prefix added because it's the imperfect form, and these are imperfect patterns, prefix patterns in the stems. But I want you to think about them as being 2 slightly different things, because the stem sign has, in a sense, has nothing to do with the prefix. The stem sign, rather, is and in every case, a series of vowels, and in some cases, stem sign consonants that are added to each verbal root to create or to communicate type of action and voice of action. Okay? So, I'm going to talk to you about the vocal patterns and then the visual signs that are related to them for each of the stems, and to differentiate them from the prefixes.